Patrick, I wanted to ask you, you've had a front row seat to broken political promises over the last couple of decades. You famously worked for Kevin Rudd. We all remember when the carbon pollution reduction scheme was shelved. Is that a bit of an eye roll there, working for Kevin Rudd, or a sigh?
It was a deep breath.
Okay.
But I think we've just moved on from talking about the Greens political party. And
maybe
when I talk about the carbon pollution reduction scheme, my memory of that time is where the Greens actually stopped good environmental policy.
Okay, well, let's not go back over that part of the...
but it's a fact that should be...
I want to ask you, though, if a policy backflip is popular, as we're being led to believe so far in terms of the news poll on this tax backflip, does that protect a leader, do you think, of losing the trust of voters, or can something that is popular still be a trust breaker when it comes to the polls?
Well, I think if you ask the question about leadership and being a leader is about doing the right thing by the people that you lead. And in terms of the job of a Prime Minister, in terms of leading the Australian people, it's about when you see the people in your country having huge cost of living pressures. Of course, it is on you to take the advice that you receive to do everything you can to alleviate those pressures while not adding to them. And that's indeed what we saw in question time today, was the Prime Minister very clearly outlining that we're seeking to reduce cost of living pressures on people who are earning wages in this country while not adding to inflation. And we've managed to find the best way through, having taken the advice from Treasury and elsewhere.
Is it more tricky in WA with the FIFO workers? FIFO workers earn a bit more, but they make sacrifices in order to do that and don't have a sort of the same longevity as other careers might have.
I've got thousands of fly-in, fly-out workers in my electorate, but 80% of people in my electorate will be better off under these changes. We had Minister Madeleine King answering in question time, pointing out that actually the average wage in the mining industry is about $145,000. So people still get a sizable tax cut. She pointed out that if you work, a lot of the work that's done is not actually driving the trucks or running the mine sites. It's all of those ancillary services from cleaning, chefs, all of those other supports. They will get bigger tax cuts.
Has it got you back in the game, do you think? There was a sense the Prime Minister was a bit punch drunk at the end of last year off the back of the voice. Is this something that gets you back in the game, as Ash was alluding to?
I'm on a panel with 4 commentators. I won't become a 5th commentator.
Do it. Come on.
It's very kind of you. It does feel a little bit like an election night thing, but I'm not going to be lulled into that at all. What I'll just say is we thought this was the right thing to do by the Australian people. We've been really upfront explaining it. We've been out there explaining it now for 2 weeks. The feedback I've received is that people understand why we've made this change. You saw the Prime Minister in question time today, kind of reading some of the feedback that he's received from people who've written to him. We're being upfront, and when you do the right thing, I think people understand, even where it is a change in position, and again, we've been upfront about that, people understand why you're doing it.
Now, Mr Gorman, we know, because the Prime Minister keeps telling us, this has nothing to do with Dunkley, this tax cuts policy. We know that, right? But I just wonder, do you think you're going to win Dunkley now, the by-election?
I haven't had the pleasure of being in Dunkley to meet Jodie Bellier, our candidate. Everything I've read is very impressive. It is a decision for the people of Dunkley, but we've put forward a very strong candidate. It's still, I think, just under a month away now. It's a decision for the people of Dunkley to make, obviously in quite tragic circumstances, but I don't want to preempt their decision, but I think we'll give it the absolute best. It's ultimately up to the people to decide, and I'm sure there'll be a panel that feels a little bit like this in just a few weeks' time.
You're pretty close to the PM with your role as well, assistant to the Prime Minister. Did he just sort of ask you before doing this, making a big call here, is it worth a broken promise? Do you think it'll be worth it in the long run?
I love that you've invited me on to disclose private conversations. That's not something that I do. We had a Prime Minister who used to do that a bit.
We said he consults.
I saw him on that other network earlier this week, but I won't mention the program or the network. Like most responsible adults, I keep private conversations private.
Now, they tell me Kevin Rudd in Washington is duchessing congressmen like he used to Duchess caucus members for a vote for the leadership. He's becoming quite effective at that. Have you heard any mail about your old boss in terms of how he's carrying out that job?
For some of those who had low expectations of Kevin, I'd say that it's always a mistake to underestimate Kevin Rudd. I think he's done a fantastic job as our ambassador. We saw some footage of him at the what do I call it? The G'day Australia event earlier this week with some well-known Australian celebrities. I did joke to one of my friends as to whether, I'm not sure if Kevin knew all of the celebrities and pop stars that he was hanging out with, but he seems to be having a very good time. It's the job of all of our ambassadors and high commissioners to build relationships across the political spectrum in the countries that they operate to further Australia's interests. Kevin's doing that. We welcome it, and we saw that with the state visit at the end of last year.
You can be our, we're going to end it there, Patrick. You can be our diplomat to tell the rest of your colleagues that it's very friendly here to come on the program. And
I'll give it a 5-star review on Google, Tom.
Very good. Patrick Gorman,
Thanks,
Deputy
Pat.
Assistant.